Said, can you interchange the tips on a X27? I'm guessing you're talking about the X27 high volume, low pressure versus the low volume, low pressure. You cannot. It's a different gun. So if you want to do that, you just got to get another gun. It's a different. You cannot get a low volume, low pressure nozzle and put it on a high volume, low pressure spray gun. It's two different guns. And yes, speaking about ATOM spray guns, they're doing a sale. I'm going to put the link here for a specific gun. Let me see what it is. They're doing a sale on the X27 high volume, low pressure 1.3 only for the next 4 days, it looks like. Check that site out, guys. Plus, you're getting a free Zen wax and a Gun Bud Ultra lighting system. So you might want to check that out. The link is down there. 33-gallon compressor combined be equivalent to a 60-gallon air compressor? Well, volume-wise, yes, it will be equivalent. But depending on the motor that you have, I don't know what size motor you're going to be running, but it could take longer to fill up, right? If you have a smaller motor that doesn't compress as much, then you might have to wait longer, right? But volume-wise, it is comparable. Question. I have 2 coats of primer surfacer. Okay to sand level with 320 grit. Do you use 400 over primer sealer? Yes. You could level it out, block it out with 320 if you want, but before paint, I would definitely get it down to 400 grit before paint. All right, so always I like to go 400 before paint. Base coat, clear coat, single stage. You could actually final sand with around 320, 360 if you want to. That's no issue. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Tony Anderson says, hey, Tony, I got a run last night in my single stage candy apple red paint job on my truck. I was putting the final coat on it. What do you recommend to remove or fix the problem? You're probably going to have to shoot that panel over. If it's a single stage candy, depending on how your run looks, okay, you might have a tint of that candy apple red run. I don't know how it looks. It's very hard for me to tell you because I don't see it in front of me. But you basically have 2 options. You could flatten it down, try to let it sit for a couple days. I would sand it with 800 grit, get it flat, maybe go down to, 1,000, then 1,500, and then you could probably try buffing it out. You could even go down to 2,000. But if you notice a candy dark run, you're going to have to reshoot that panel. So hopefully it's on a fender or something that you could just do that panel over if you have to. Question, say if I paint a single stage and I see some flaws, bugs or dust in the finish, how long should I wait before I sand and buff? Single stage, I would give it a good week. 1 week. Let it sit for a week, let it cure, get hard, and then do what you got to do. Okay? Longer the better, actually. So if you're not in a rush, Mr. Italiano, then, you could let it sit for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The harder, the better. The harder, the better. The more your paint cures, the better. But usually single stage, 5 to 10 days, you got a pretty good cure on it. Don't really know what kind of paint you're spraying, but if I sand any more than 600, you see sand scratches. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you're sanding anything, you're going to see sand scratches. I'm not sure. Are you talking about covering with base coat, clear coat? And that means you're not putting enough paint on it. But 400 is the go-to paper to paint over. Base coat, clear coat as well. MG says, can I use a paintbrush instead of spraying to dab epoxy primer on a couple of rust spots on the floor plan? Floor pan looks like it doesn't matter. Yeah, why not? If you want to do that, why not? It's not going to hurt. But what I would do is if you're going to be doing floor plans, why don't floor pans? We've been doing like my wife's been building out floor plans on the software computer, like designing a extension build, and we're talking about floor plans. You should just use a rubberized undercoating. Why not? And again, yes, you could use a paintbrush if you wanted to, but why not use a spray-on rubberized undercoating? Like you could use Raptor liner is good. It's a little bit more high-end, thicker, but you can also get the can aerosol can. Stuff that I use is called Tight Seal, and I showed you a can of that back in the day. But that's perfect for underbody, undercarriage, and let me see if I have a can here. Underbody, undercarriage, and like under, wheel wells or floor pans. Here, get some of this on eBay, spray it with this. You actually could put the epoxy on it by brush and then put this over it. Oh, okay. It's good for going over metal to seal it from rust. And if you can, get both sides. Get the top, and then if there's a hole in the bottom of the vehicle, under the floorboard there, hit it from underneath of the car. Okay, if you're probably going to Bondo it up, right? Like, or fiberglass it up. Okay, because we go over like a single stage enamel. Usually, you're just going to want to get a 1 gallon kit. You mix 3 quarts. Okay, or sometimes a half a gallon if you're spraying a small car. Because when you use your half of gallon of paint, you mix it with reducers and hardeners. It gives you a little bit more. It gives you like probably 3 to 3.5 quarts of sprayable. Sometimes that might be enough for a small car like an MG. If you're doing a large car like the van that I did, I basically went through the whole gallon of white. You know what I mean? On a big Chevy Express, I use the whole gallon. Base coat, clear coat. If you're doing a same color paint job, say I had a red car, hood, trunk, roof are faded, right? But the rest of the car was okay. Normally, something like that, I'll get 2 quarts of red base coat. I'll put 2 coats on the top, cover it, make sure it's all one color, and then I'll go around the car one shot, and that's enough. You'll have leftover with a gallon of sprayable, because 2 quarts of base coat will give you 1 gallon of sprayable paint. You're probably going to use a half a gallon to maybe 3 quarts of sprayable paint. So it's all there. Hit it with 600 grit and sprayed it with some 2K white primer. Do I resand again? And if so, what sandpaper before I spray the chrome? Are you going to be spraying black then like a chrome paint on top? Are you doing like a chromatic color? If so, you could just finish with 400 to 600 grit, spray your black base coat. Okay, put two heavy coats, 2 to 3 heavy coats on it of black, and then spray your chromatic over it, and then clear coat. All right. 79 Trans Am. Should I place the bird decals on base coat, then spray clear, or spray clear, then put the decals? So it's up to you, Michael. If you want to bury your decals in the clear coat, you could absolutely do that, and that would be the way to do it. is to basically do your base coat, lay your decals, make sure you tack it before you spray your clear coat, but make sure when you tack it that you don't get that tack rag fiber stuck to the decal. That's the number one thing. You got to make sure these decals have no dust stuck around it, because when you clear coat, it's going to, you're going to see that. So it's up to you. If you feel like you want to bury your decals in your clear coat and have a smooth finish on top, do that. If you feel like in the future you don't want that and you want to be able to take your decals off, then put it on top of the clear coat. It's really personal preference, man. Danny says, I painted a 2014 Buick and color matched, but it's very dull even after color sanding. Maybe too much air or well, if it's dull after color sanding and buffing, I think you just got to buff it a little bit more, maybe a little bit more buffing. To use and sand on a single stage after waiting the entire time you said before. Thanks again. What grit? So if you're going to be buffing out single stage, you could use 1000 grit to cut it down, and then move to 1500 and 2000 grit, and then buff it out 2000 grit. If you're going to be painting brand new single stage over a 2K filler primer or over any kind of primer, you want to finish sanding with 400 grit. Actually, if it's single stage, you could finish with 320, 360, 400, anywhere around there. I wouldn't go finer than 400. But single stage is a thicker paint, so it will cover up to 320 sand scratches, no problem. Like, it'll still look like glass if you paint over that. Change plus primer. Okay, so you're going to prime the whole thing, complete color change, Colorado. I would say 3 quarts of base coat should be enough for you. But if you want to, if you want to just have extra and not worry about it, get a gallon of base, because you're probably going to use about a gallon of sprayable material. So if you got 3 quarts, it'll give you a gallon and a half of sprayable base coat, right? I think that's going to be more than enough for a color change, okay, over primer. And then as far as clear goes, you're just going to need a 1 gallon kit of clear. You should be fine. And, we'll be back next week, Monday, same time, or Wednesday. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week. Have a great coming weekend, and I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.